So here's the metaphor of the day. Picture that you have a giant 50,000 piece jigsaw puzzle. It's massive. And it is this landscape where you see a beautiful garden in the foreground with all these flowers and hummingbirds and bees and dragonflies and butterflies. And then there's a lake in the midground, and then you have a forest in the back. And it's just absolutely beautiful. When you step back from it, you can't even tell that it's a puzzle. It's just this beautiful scene. And the fact is, when that puzzle was created, it was created as one unified sheet, right? It was printed on one piece of cardboard, just whole. Then they put that through a machine that segments it out into little tiny pieces and then jumbles them all up. And then you get the enjoyment of putting them back together again and then gluing it back into one unified piece again. The the analogy here is that we tend to go through life looking at that puzzle and we find one little tiny piece of the puzzle and it looks like a little bee. And it's maybe not even the whole bee, it's just like a bee torso and part of a wing. And we say, that's me. That's me. I am separate from everything else. I've always been separate. I'm completely outside of everything, right? I can exist independently of everything else. But it's not true. You started out as part of absolutely everything. You were made of the same ink, the same cardboard. You were printed all together at the same time as everything else. And this illusory faculty that we have of the this sort of egoic self-referential sense that seems like it splits apart this puzzle into individual pieces. And each one of them starts to take on its own little life and it has its own unique identity that seems to be separate from everything else. But what we're doing with the process of awakening is effectively putting that puzzle back together again and gluing it so that those pieces can't be removed again. We can still see little lines around them. We can still see the borders. We know technically, there is this also kind of quasi-reality about it where there is some sort of separate, intimate nature that we can interact with. Again, so that, on a relative level, we know that there's a difference between drinking coffee and drinking bleach, right? Like one leads to a better outcome than another. And it's not to say that everything is equivalent in that way. But on this more universal level, on this larger absolute level, it is all the same image. It is all the same thing, which is everything is made up of. And there is absolutely no independent nature of any one of those jigsaw puzzle pieces compared to another. It doesn't matter if one piece looks like a butterfly and another piece looks like a rose bush and another piece looks like part of the lake and another part looks like the sky. It's all the same thing. It's all made of the same substrate, right? It's all made of ink on cardboard. And everything here is made of atoms. There is a distinct correlate there that everything we experience, no matter how different it seems on the surface, is absolutely the same if we go down to its base constituents. Now, even going above, that's sort of shrinking down to the micro level. If we expand out to the macro level, we can see that the interaction of this body with its environment, to separate that out is simply the same as zooming in too closely to that landscape to find an individual jigsaw piece and then saying that that is separatable from everything else. It's not. If we were like trees and we happened to grow out of the dirt and we were rooted in place for our whole life, it would be a lot easier for us to understand that we grow up out of the earth, that we are part of everything else, that we are just absolutely at the whims of nature providing us with the proper nutrients and the proper everything. But it's because we have this feeling of locomotion that I can actually get up, move, walk around, move to other parts of the country, fly, swim, bicycle, drive cars. I seem to have autonomous independence in that way, which a tree doesn't, right? So because of that, we get this illusory sense of freedom and separation, as though one little jigsaw puzzle piece could separate itself and then just, float around the rest of the canvas and then come back. That illusion that we have of separation is just an illusion. I don't think anybody would say that a bee is not related to nature just because it's able to fly around, also live in a hive, also walk on the ground, also swim in the water or bob in the water and get a drink. Um, that would not be enough for people to feel like a bee is completely removed from everything else. And yet we do often give ourselves that attribute that we don't really have. We have the idea that we have this sense of separation that they don't have. They live in a hive, they're part of nature. We live in houses. We are separate in some way. It's just silly. A house is our hive. It is built of the same, even if we're using concrete and brick, it is still something which we fabricate the way that a hornet builds a nest. It's so important for us to recognize that all of the little ways that we set ourselves apart from everything are just illusions, that they are just our way of creating an idea about ourselves that is in no way related to the actuality of everything. We cannot escape the fact that we are made of that same exact substratum of everything else, that we are part of the movement, the flow of absolutely everything everywhere. We cannot escape that. And this is all to bring you back to that one individual snapshot of awareness, of experience, which is entirely inseparable from everything else that has ever been and ever will be. You are simply zooming in too close and assuming that that zoomed in self that we are seeing has a unique nature of its own. It does not. Widen the view. Take in the entire tapestry all at once. See the entire jigsaw puzzle for what it is. And go back to before those pieces were even carved out by the machine. What was here before any of this was artificially separated? Thank you. Happy inquiring. And remember, investigate everything. Enjoy.